Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. It's nice and sunny here today in the mid-60s, but the wind is really blowing. So I've decided to do my video inside so that you guys could hear me. And to be honest, with that wind blowing some, I'm kind of chilly. Even here in the house, I'm a little bit chilly, and so I'll be hunting down a sweater here in a little bit to warm up, get some of the chill knocked off. But I thought we'd spend a little bit of time talking today about our homestead or libraries there at your home, even if you don't live on a farm or a homestead. Now, I love to read, and I love to read a whole variety of books, and I've shared some of my homestead books with you before, things that I like to keep on my bookshelves. I love to read fiction, or I used to love to read fiction, and I've shared with you guys since my Howie passed away that I haven't been able to do that. I just can't bring myself to it. When I would read fiction stories, mostly the Christian Amish stories, or the historical, Christian historical fiction books, Howie always had this little thing that I had told him that he was always the hero in the book. No matter how they described the heroine and the hero of the book, you know, didn't matter if they said they had blonde hair, they had dark hair, they had this or that. I always envisioned Howie and I as the characters. And so every time I started a new book, he would make a habit. I usually read at night before I went to sleep because it takes me a while to wind down. And Howie, as soon as his head hit the pillow, he was asleep. And so I read until I would get sleepy, and so over the years have read lots and lots of stories. And he would always ask me before he nodded off to sleep, who am I this time? And so I would explain to him who he was in the stories. And I just haven't been able, since the very day that he left for the hospital when he was sick with COVID, I haven't been able to read a fiction story. And I had a book there on my nightstand that I was reading, and I just put it away. I didn't finish it. But nonetheless, I love other books as well. And I love to have hard copies of books. Now, a lot of people will say they don't like to have a lot of books. They don't like to read, or they like to have books on their Kindle or other means of books. But I like to have hard copies of the books. I'm the same way with magazines. I know that you can look online and see the things that people have for sale, but I really like to have the catalog, the seed catalog, the catalogs, the poultry catalogs. I like to have those things on hand. I like to look through them, and you know, like on sometime in the evenings when I'm just sitting here watching TV, I'll pull a magazine or a catalog out and just flip through the pages. I just like that. And so I feel like it's important to have a variety of books on hand. Here at our farm, I have a whole big selection of books on animal husbandry, and lots and lots of cookbooks and other things that are of interest to me and my household. And I'm hoping that you guys do too. Now, I know that we have access to the library and online sources, but I'd like to know that if something was to ever happen and I couldn't get to the library, or I wasn't able to get onto the internet, or whatever it was, I could still bring something out and get some of the knowledge that I'm searching for by reading hard copy. Now, I know these do a whole lot, and Blade and Cheyenne have done their best to teach me that a lot of what I need is right here on this. And I will acknowledge that when I study my Sunday school lessons out. A lot of my studying comes from books that I don't actually have on hand here at home. And I can access those and can study those, and I enjoy that. But I always want to make sure that I have hard copy. And I'll show you some examples of some of the books that I have. Now, my book list, of course, is going to be totally separate than the books that you have. Depends a lot on your interest and where you are at in your journey of prepping and preparedness, and if you live on on a farm, a homestead, or maybe there are things that you have a real interest in. And I wouldn't necessarily have an interest in those things. So you're going to be able to customize your library, your home library, to what your interests are for you and your family and where they are in ages. Of course, I've got books for the littles, for Howie and for Rowdy, and we have board books, the very first books for them to look at, and storybooks and other little Bible stories and all kinds of things for them. And then it moves on up into coloring books. We're not there yet with crayons and markers and things, but I do have those things on hand for when they're ready, or when we have nieces and nephews over that are able to have those things. And we have all kinds of other sources. Now, like I said, this is just going to be an example of things. I like to have books on hand that cover a variety of animals that we have on our homesteads. This is just one of them. And these are stories guides. They are not the end all, of course, of books, but this is one of the ones that Howie and I always like to have. They have the different animals. This one happens to be pigs, but we've got the poultry and rabbits and the beef and all of the different ones. And this just tells you some of the things that you can look for in your animals, the housing and the diseases and how to keep them healthy. It even has parts in here of showing your pigs and just all kinds of things. But make sure that you have some books that are going to be resources for you to go to on your animals. There's a book that I would like to get on. It's a veterinarian handbook. Of course, there are things that we can't do that we do need to rely on the veterinarian for. But there's some things that you need to know if you're going to take care of animals. And these books can kind of point you in the right direction on some things. We have a variety of books on processing, those things that, processing these things. You can have books from beginner to all the way through different kinds of homesteading books. We have lots of sources. I just grabbed a few of the books that I have off of my bookshelf. If I had showed you everything, y'all would have to stay the night here for me to show you all the books that I've got. But they're just, just beginner books. This isn't an exhaustive book on homesteading. It's just one that kind of gets you started. This covers gardening, and it covers sharpening your tools and weaving and shearing sheep and all kinds of things. And you will find that there are quite a few books that are pretty good handbooks to have. This isn't going to be something that's going to be exhaustive with each subject that's in this book. This is just like a chapter of each subject. But just know that you can get a wide variety of books on each subject that you're looking at, as sourdough bread, or growing orchards, all kinds of ways to gain knowledge in your homestead library. I have quite a few books on herbs, and this one's the Herbal Companion. How to grow things, how to use them, how to recognize them out on your farm, or if you're foraging out through the woods. Cheyenne and I will be growing several different types of chamomile and marshmallow and borage and different kinds of things that we can use here at the farm to make all kinds of different products. And so we're excited about that. But you need some really good, reliable books. Always look at the recommendations. Always look and make sure that you can trust the sources that you're using. We have soap making books. This isn't the only one. This is one that I picked up at a thrift store. Caught my attention with the soap making. There are other sources. Cheyenne got a really good one for Christmas. So there's all kinds of interest. This one is on beekeeping. This was actually one of Howie's books. He was studying and getting ready to begin his beekeeping journey, but he ended up getting stung and having an allergic reaction, a terrible emergency situation that he had to go to the hospital. It was actually a wasp that stung him, but his doctor told him that he did not want him to raise bees because of that. He had a few instances where he actually broke out in hives and had an allergic reaction just to eating honey. And so the doctor said no on the bees, but we kept the book, and now Blade is interested in starting his own honey bees, and so that's something that I'm going to pass on to him. I've got books on sewing, how to set zippers, how to put in buttons, and I know that I've showed you these books before. I have a lot of cookbooks, and I also have a lot of canning cookbooks. Now on the canning ones, I have some that are old, and you want to make sure on those that you're following today's methods on canning. Some of the old recipes go by the old way of doing things, and they have done research since then and have added cooking time to some of the recipes, and they've actually deemed that some of the recipes aren't as safe. And so make sure if you're using old cookbooks, you're using old canning books. I've had recipe books that are from the Amish, and they use canning processes that I don't practice. So make sure on your canning resources, your preserving resources, that you're using something that you trust. I always like to look at the old recipes, but reference my ball canning books and my the Centers for Home Preservation to make sure that they kind of match and line up on what it is that I'm canning. So you can see that you can actually build your own library, as big or as small, exhaustive or as narrow as you want it, depending on your interest. You can pay a lot of money for books. Books can be very expensive, and if you buy brand new, you could sometimes spend a whole lot of money on just one individual books. But you can find books at garage sales and thrift stores, and you can find books, people just giving their books away. Don't forget to go and look on those used bookstore websites, because some of their prices will beat the ones that you can find in the bigger places. You'll be surprised at how fast you can build your personal library and fill it full of the books that interest you, that you can get hands-on and be useful to you and to your family. Okay, guys, I hope the information that I gave you today will help you to be able to get the books that interest you at a really good price that you can go on your shelf. They don't have to be brand new. They can be in really good shape, getting used, and filling your shelf so that you've got information at your fingertips. I know that this has a lot of information, but I can't get away from having those hard copies of the information at my fingertips. And just know that you can make that library as little or as big and expansive as you want, as long as you have room. I have bookcases in several different places in my house, and could probably use another bookcase or two. But I just like having the information there at my fingertips. So guys, I hope this helps. This is Josie. Look well to the ways of your household, including your information resources. And until next time, guys, we're gone.